What's up, you guys? This is HJ here, and welcome to another YouTube tutorial video. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to access your About settings in your PC, find information about the drivers and the upgrades that are supported by your PC. And I mainly made this video for a friend, but if you guys need this video as well, then this could actually help you guys. One little side note, the procedure should be the same on Windows 10 and Windows 11, seeing as how they're both predecessor and successor to the same type of OS shell, so to speak. They both have the same look and feel with some minor tweaks to it. So there's not much that's going to be different. If you're on a Windows 7 computer or earlier, or another device such as Mac or Linux, I would recommend going to another YouTube video to find out more about those specific devices. Now, for Windows 11 and Windows 10, it's pretty straightforward, especially for Windows 11. For Windows 10, all you're going to do is just go to your system settings, and for Windows 11, you should be right at your system settings, and all you're going to do is just click on About. A little side note, computers like HP and some other brands of computers will actually sometimes omit the specific model number of your PC. For example, if I lift up my HP over here, which I'm going to grab from off my desk really quickly, and if I were to pull this thing up so I can show you, basically what's going to happen is you'll log in, but if you log in, over half the time, HP will say model number, a couple letters, the first number, and then it will say XXX. If this happens, then you will need to go to their website to automatically detect what PC you are running. And in that, I'm going to get to that in a little bit, because with Dell, you have the same model number, but you have the same process to get to the drivers. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cover that. So for most websites, I'm going to use Dell for example. So you type in Dell.com. If you go to their support website, you go to their support home, a lot of websites will actually detect your product, your system. And then once it detects your product and your system, you can then click on it. See, mine is an Inspiron 153511, and you'll see my service tag. Don't worry, it can only be used by me, so I don't have to omit it. And when you see this page right here, you can actually collect or select your diagnostics. You have access to your drivers and downloads. And then in order to find the upgradability of the parts, you will need to go into the documentation. And the reason why I say go into the documentation is because the documentation, what it shows is it shows you all of the information related to your PC, your setup, everything. And so this is the specifications document for a Dell. Sorry about my camera autofocus. And it'll give you all the specifications and everything that's supported. Now, if you're interested in memory, you see right here, it has the memory listed. The memory slots, 2 SODIMM slots, those are the small pieces of RAM, not the desktop memory. It says DDR4, and then it shows the supported. It says 2666 with integrated, 3200 with discrete. Note that for this particular Dell PC, discrete graphics are not readily available everywhere. So just a heads up on that one. I only know this because I've actually watched videos of different people who have the discrete graphics, and a lot of the times those videos in particular, the models that they showcase, I cannot find them anywhere within the US based websites or systems. So that is a good indicator that they might not be available in the US. You can check, but I doubt it highly, but you can definitely check. I recommend checking that first. It'll give you the total amount that is supported, and the total amount of supported configuration here is 16, which I'm going to show you in just a second. I've already upgraded mine, and see if I can just tap it instead. It will show you how much RAM you currently have installed if you go to your Intel Command Center or ARC Command Center, and we'll show you what you already have. AMD has their own. And see, AMD, with them, they have their own graphics command center. So all you would have to do is just find the exact same, like, type. I guess not type. That's not the word I'm looking for. The exact same. It's basically just a copycat version of the app, but it's AMD. You just look for whatever AMD's version is, and it'll show you the system memory. And you'll see that I have 2 hard drives. Some laptops, and I know Dells are particularly good for this. A lot of Dells are particularly good at this, especially the newer ones, and a lot of the newer models have 2 different hard drive bays. For example, mine has an M.2 slot in the middle. That's the standard drive that all computers' SSDs have regardless. And then it has an additional M.2 SATA port for if you have a SATA SSD or an HDD that supports SATA, which I have installed. If that is the case, you will be able to find that out on the documentation, and the documentation will typically tell you what amount of hard drive space is supported by that additional hard drive slot. Mine is 2 terabytes, so this is all I can support. That number right there at the top, that's all I can support for my laptop. And one other thing to keep in mind is that some laptops don't have that. So if your laptop doesn't have that, like my HP here, then what you're going to be left with is the option to clone and put your operating system on a larger hard drive so that you can get your hard drive to work, have more space, that sort of thing. And a lot of modern PCs, especially this one, and this one, they also have SD card slots. So if you're not a techie like me and you don't know how to put the hard drive in, you don't have anybody that can do so, go on to Amazon or Newegg and try and find a large capacity SD card or micro SD card with an adapter, and you can just stick that in there and format it as NTFS, and it will perform the exact same functions that an internal hard drive will. You'll just be able to remove it and swap out the cards as need be for whichever amount of data or what data you're trying to use. So that's that. And the other thing I was going to make a point of saying, if your PC is a gaming PC or a desktop, your desktop or your gaming PC has way more compatibility, way more upgradability than a normal traditional laptop like these 2 that you see here. And actually, if I show you I'll just cover up my camera and walk over here and show you my desktop interior so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. Basically, if the inside of your desktop looks like this, or if you have an office desktop with a hard drive port, PCIe Gen 3, more than likely, if you get a Radeon or an NVIDIA GPU, even if it's an office PC and you can get the drivers for it, chances are you're probably, in some office PCs, you might need to upgrade the motherboard too. I'm not even going to touch on that because your chances of that are slim. But for the GPU, I know if your motherboard supports Gen 3, which most do, then all you really need is a GPU for your office PC if it can fit in it, and you can just download the drivers and just run it. I know people that have done that, and that's not a rare occurrence. Some people do that actually to cut back on costs. And my last point, what was I gonna? Oh, yeah, my last point. So my last point is that if you want to find the cheapest parts, this is the best way to try to find it cheap and not get scammed. To look on Newegg or Amazon or any other computer site like Best Buy and whatnot, and look for any particular part that is sold by and shipped by the company's website that you're browsing. That's going to improve your chances of not getting scammed. And so, say for example, I want to browse Newegg. Now, Newegg is refurbished. Naturally, you can get scammed a lot easier on refurbished parts. You can get scammed still on Amazon. You can get scammed anywhere. But you're more likely to get scammed on refurbished parts just because people resell them. And I know that because we bought a part for a Lenovo and it was not the right part as they advertised, and we contacted the seller and they were never reachable. We couldn't get them for months and months, still haven't reached them, and we can't even get our money back. So we learned the hard way. So just for example, if I can find my backspace key, I'm going to type in a GPU. I'm going to give you guys an example. Something like this that's shipped and sold by Newegg, if it's shipped and sold by Newegg, chances are it's gonna be a little bit more legit. Now, that doesn't mean that all of them are not legit. That just means you have to use your discretion to figure out which ones are legit and which ones are not. You can't always tell. I get it. You can't always tell what's legit and what's not. But to put in perspective, the more you put a buffer between yourself and getting scammed, the less likely you are to get scammed. So this is just my tips and tricks. You don't have to follow them. I'm not trying to say that Newegg is bad or anything, but just know that you've got to be a little bit more careful when doing your shopping online. Now, if you go to Best Buy, which is probably the most reputable to get your parts from, then I trust Best Buy. If you feel comfortable going to Best Buy and just typing in a GPU and just ordering it, if you have to wait the 10 days to avoid getting scammed, wait the 10 days. Don't put yourself in a bad position like we did a few years back. Don't do that. I don't want anybody getting scammed for any reason. So just giving you guys a heads up, the best practice to do is to just put yourself in my shoes and look at it from my perspective. That if you want to not get scammed, you've got to find a way to put a buffer between yourself and who might be able to scam you. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That is all. I'll catch you guys in the next video.